You think I'm scared of you? You think you're better than me? You think you're better than me at something? I'm not intimidated by you at all. F you. I don't understand what makes you so great. I mean, it's like nothing makes sense anymore, okay? What's going on?
It's guts. No. No. Not that cut.
That's my job. That's my job.
You
don't take my job.
I'm the new hands.
No.
I'm the hands
You
now.
don't take my job.
I'm the hands.
Talking about cuts.
What are you saying?
Exactly.
What are you even saying right now? I don't understand.
That's exactly the point that we're making here. When you're drinking whiskey, you're probably not thinking about cuts. The category, sure, that's an easy one. You know what kind of whiskey's in your glass. The age statement, that's interesting to track how much time was spent in the barrel. The barrel itself, yeah, if you're so inclined, you can see what kind of wood aged that spirit. Good old American white oak, French oak Armagnac barrel, Brazilian Amburana. It definitely makes a difference.
Fucking nerd.
Nerd, Kyle.
Nerd.
Kyle, you nerd, being a nerd. Oh, is this our tequila? Oh, is this the stuff that we did for 27 hours? Yep. Oh, you're not talking about that now. Later, different episode, sorry, different episode. Oh my God.
I'm sorry what I said about you, Kyle.
You're the best, Kyle. Most people aren't thinking about this very consequential decision in whiskey making, and most distilleries aren't talking about it. To know why a distillery's cuts are so important, you gotta understand what a cut impacts. And when you boil it down to the essence, a cut affects the quality of those flavors in your glass, which is often at odds with the money in a distiller's pocket. The cut choices you make can mean the difference between aging and selling this much spirit or this much. Not an exaggeration, by the way. With a still, you're using evaporation to separate liquid into its component parts, and different parts of a liquid evaporate at different times. Distillers separate the evaporating and condensing liquid into 3 phases. First, the heads come out, then the hearts, then the tails. And that act of separation is called a cut. And to show you what this looks like without all the twisty copper bits, it's very simple, very straightforward. You have evaporation, condenses back into a liquid. This is our heads. Lots of heads. You want to go through the heads because the heads are not going to be good flavors. But eventually, you start getting into the hearts. The hearts, that's where the most desirable flavors live. And right now we may be in like a really light type of hearts color, but the deeper we get into those hearts, the more central, the more desirable that flavor profile, until eventually we're no longer in the hearts and we're getting back out into the tails. But it's not an all-at-once thing. It's a gradient, it's a spectrum over time, so we still have some nice hearts, but they're phasing out and they're giving way to the flavors, the undesirable qualities that happen in the tails part of a run. Still quite a bit of food coloring in there. My God, why is it so red? Look how clear that is eventually now. Tails. And it all happens right here at the spirit stage. We have the head section here, the heart section here, the tail section over there. All that time, that energy, that training, the investments, everything comes down to this moment. We're perched on a knife's edge. Don't look away, lest you miss it. I missed it. No, we're good. It's time to make the cut. That makes a huge difference. Such a big difference in the final product that is in your glass. I wish we could make whiskey that fast. Oh my God, if we could make whiskey that fast. Holy hell, that's just...
What's happening?
Don't worry, it's just water. That would be way too profitable if it was actually whiskey. Thanks to Original Grain for sponsoring this episode. Original Grain specializes in watches and rings inlaid with whiskey barrel wood. They've been making watches and rings for over a decade using unique materials like whiskey barrel wood, guitar wood, German oak beer barrels, army surplus, tequila barrels, like all different kinds of things that if you have anybody in your life that has these areas of interest, it's a really, really cool way for them to get something practical, useful, beautiful, that also leans into something that they already love. And every watch they sell, they plant a tree, and at this point they have planted over 500,000 trees. So we've gotten a handful of their whiskey barrel wood inlaid watches, and these are beautiful. The thing that's really cool about using natural materials like wood inlaid with your watches and your rings is every single piece is unique. The grain, the shape of that wood, that is unlike any other. You got the holidays, you got the Christmas coming up. You're looking for that gift that is special, that is unique, something that they will use. Check out Original Grain. They're likely gonna have an amazing gift idea waiting for you there. This is your last chance to use code TRIBE to get an extra 10% off the holiday deals. That means some things you can get up to 40% off. Check it out. How a distillar is deciding where the heads, hearts, and tails are? It's easy. They watch the proof and taste the flavor. But let's go a bit deeper and visit Ty Phelps and his team at Andalusia Whiskey to see their process for making cuts. Whiskey Advocate magazine named them one of the top 20 distilleries on the planet. So yeah, we're in good hands. So we're still very much in the heads, but you're gonna get in there and see.
Give it a quick smell. At this point, it's probably not advisable to taste it, but you can kind of smell it and kind of see what's going on with it. Yeah, so definitely, some higher chemicals and some flavors that just really aren't pleasant. You got your methyl alcohol, acetaldehydes, kind of smells like acetone. All these things are in fermented beverages, beer and wine, in small amounts, but distillation allows us to go ahead and remove those.
The heads, the hearts, and the tails, different flavors live across these things.
Heads are really, most likely you're going to get kind of like an acetone or a nail polish remover flavor. Then they've dipped into some heads too much.
Getting into, the lower parts of the heads, getting towards the hearts.
The heart's cut is going to be relatively neutral. And I'm not talking vodka here, but we're going to get a lot more whiskey flavor deeper into the hearts. So the hearts themselves are not homogeneous either. You're going to be able to taste the whole range of all your whiskey flavors all throughout your hearts. And so as the still runs, you're never going to get a snapshot of the final whiskey as it's coming off, but it's going to be the collective of the hearts that really gives it the spirit of the spirit.
How do people know that, okay, the hearts are about to end, now we're getting into the tailsy stuff?
You'll taste it and it's just kind of a harsh bitterness. And then the flavors that start to arise, it's more of that organic, sweaty, giving your dog a bath. That's kind of what we're talking about with tails.
For context, whenever we won Best Grainy Glass Single Malt in Texas, second place was Andalusia, Ty Phelps. To do that, we had to beat out a world champion, and Andalusia, they've been named legitimately as one of the best distilleries on the planet. So our technique was pretty simple. We had very, very narrow and intentional cuts to have a precise flavor profile without going so narrow that it became boring. And then we had a little bit of smoke, and Ty helped us smoke it. Ty, I'm gonna stand right here in front of you, look you dead in the eye, and explain how we cheated and won the best grain to glass single malt whiskey in Texas. We have a good community of people that are financially backing us. So our cuts can be so picky and choosy.
Especially if it's going to be young.
Yeah.
Like if you're going to be aging the spirits for 2 years, then you need to do some pretty tight cuts.
Yes.
You're not going to really have time for those tails to develop into interesting things. And if you're going to have a young whiskey, and you're going to have pretty narrow cuts, and it could potentially maybe be a little boring, what you can do is spice it up with something like smoke. And then, all that fun smoke, doesn't need a ton of aging time. So yeah, that's a beautiful strategy.
And I don't want to discount the other things that dramatically change a whiskey, but cuts have a disproportionate impact on your whiskey quality when you consider how rarely they're discussed. A 66% wider cut could mean a 66% increase in Zemanis. If you cut wide, this is another employee. This is your next forklift payment. It's a new fermentation tank. And I want to be clear, you're not dealing with a plague of greedy whiskey makers out there. Most distillers want to make a great spirit. That's their goal. Some distilleries start out with a fortune from the owner's previous career. Others have a 200-year head start. Some have the bottomless coffers of a corporate overlord. Crowded Barrel has the whiskey tribe of magnificent bastards. And it allows us to do experimental runs like this. All right, guys, we're talking about the next Primal Spirits release. This is narrow cut and wide cut, so you can see the difference in your glass to understand exactly what the cuts are doing whenever everything else is the exact same. So rather than just talk about it, we're gonna let people do some blind tasting and weigh in on the flavors that they're getting in case you're not able to get a bottle.
Dusty bread.
Definitely some corn in there. Reminds me of fall.
Fresh, fruity freshness.
Pale fruit.
Zesty.
Dash of mint on top. Maybe just a little bit of citrus. Might be some lemon in there.
Hawaiian punch. Maybe like a tiny bit of grain.
Maybe like an uncooked waffle.
Lovely. Absolutely lovely.
Okay, living up to its expectations, like a fruit roll-up.
A lemon lime, zestiness, little oiliness.
Catch a little lime. There's a little bit of citrus tinge at the end.
This one's got a lot of dust. It's just dusty on top of the flavors.
That's something that's ready to go in a barrel, sit in there for 3 to 4 years, and then just make magic after that. Honest to God, it's even great on its own already.
This one, it's sweet, but funky sweet.
It's more fruity, like fruit cake.
Kind of reminds me of like grass or hay.
Oh, okay. Yep, see, this is a little more assertive, definitely more suggestive. There's a lot more going on here.
Corn husk.
Corn on the cob.
Maybe it's cooked waffle now. Put a little honey butter on your cooked waffle.
I would definitely say this one's more botanical.
There's some green in there, some earthiness.
So not what I was expecting. The sweetness is still there.
Man, ever since I said waffle, I can't get that out of my head. Just honey butter, like it matches the nose. The palate matches the nose.
Are you getting a difference between these two?
Yes, I am.
Obvious difference, side by side.
There's a huge difference, yeah.
I just checked and there are less than 2 dozen of these available at this point. Most of them are sold out, so if you happen to be one of the first people to watch this, enjoy. It's fun to be able to do these kinds of experiments, even though they don't really make money. It's just the kind of thing that you gotta do to explore whiskey and really understand the component parts of this spirit. So once you've made your cuts, you've got your hearts, what do you do with the heads and the tails? What do you do with all that leftover alcohol? Well, one of the things that you can do is use it as fuel. This is a fire pit. It's the core of a fire pit. This is an ethanol-based fire pit.
Yeah, it is.
The reason why we chose an ethanol-based fire pit, it's actually to honor a very special member, one of the oest of the G's in the whiskey tribe, a magnificent bastard through and through, Patrick Kohn. Patrick Kohn passed away. This is going to be in remembrance of him. So we poured some of Brianna's finest whiskey. What do you have?
29-year-old Blackheart.
Yeah, the 1992 Bruichladdich Blackheart.
This was actually gifted to me by Joseph Turcotte.
Yep, the good Joseph Turcotte. And one of the moderators in the Whiskey Tribe, Jeremy Sims, had an excellent idea. A fire pit in Patrick's name. As a human being, he provided warmth and brought people together like no other, which is what a fire pit does. So we chose an ethanol-based fire pit because what better fuel to bring people around this warmth to gather around than the spirit that, we collectively are really into.
Yeah. Ah!
Yeah, so
Oh,
this should get more.
there they are.
So we're right outside the tasting room here, and in this clearing, I think this is where the fire pit should go. Right outside the tall wall of the tasting room, Fang and Feather. I think this is a good spot, this clearing in between the ramp and part of the deck, where we put the core of that fire pit and start to build around it a rim, an edge, a perimeter, a place for, especially this winter, people to gather, get warm, hang out. I think Patrick would love that.
Every time I would see him and the huge smile that he always had.
Yeah.
And he was always a really just tight, good hugger too.
The last time Brianna and I saw him together was at the most recent Bastards Ball, and he volunteered, and we put him in charge of the Vault Ball. He was hosting that. We were supposed to replace him after a couple of hours so he could attend the rest of the event and just hang out with the MBs. And he stayed the whole time hosting, so somebody else could more fully enjoy their day here. And that is not at all surprising if you knew Patrick. He was that kind of generous, he's that kind of warm, that kind of considerate. And it's people like that, that even though they're not like front and center, whenever they're gone, it feels like life cut a little bit too deeply into the hearts to Patrick.